Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. I finished this game a couple minutes ago. Accurate. The losing side had 78% accuracy. I won with 86% accuracy, so I like that. Let's take a look at the game. Um, and I'll offer my commentary. But we played e4, e5, king's pawn opening. This is all really well known. And now the Spanish four knights. Still book, and the knight d5 is a really good try. This is a good move by white. I've seen it before, not all that often, but it induced this blunder. Knight takes e4. Maybe black was better off to. Actually, I'm gonna look this up, so I don't want to get guesswork out of it. Knight takes d5, and then the pawn recaptures, and black can play knight to e7 after. Note that knight to d4 doesn't work because of pawn to c3. So knight takes d5 was the better move. Back to review. The blunder, and my opponent puts me in kind of, my opponent has a material advantage already. I played knight to c5, trying to threaten action on f2 in time. For instance, knight takes f2, forking rook and queen. And I thought, well, my opponent deals with that, I'll recapture my piece, and I might even be ahead material at that point. And that's indeed what happened with the blunder pawn to d4. And Torch 4 Light says that the move should be knight takes c7 check. After queen takes c7, bishop takes e4, and d5. Oh. Wait a minute. Okay. Okay, but d4 was played. I captured on c6. Then lost my bishop on c5. But the point is, the pawn has two minor pieces to capture in a row, and that's gonna lead black into a better to have more material. I captured though with my queen, which is the inferior of the two moves. I see by the torch. I see by torch 4. And after bishop to e3, queen. We swap queens while I had one pawn. And now black is just in a better rook and pawn endgame, and that's it. They're, doubled pawns, isolani, well-formed pawns with the g-file half open, and guess what? The pawn that's showing is protected by not one but two pawns. The other pawns are on closed files. So the idea here as black is to pick up a lot of pawns. Like so. Let's see, my opponent chose to resign here, and I'll play out the rest of the game against computer. Right, we'll explain this move. King to e4. Basically, however the computer's thinking, the computer realizes that pawn to c7 doesn't make it in time, and is willing to just abandon the pawn outright to have a more central position on the board, which would probably shave like one move off of a forced checkmating attack. So, I mean, my opponent played king to e4. The more human move here for white would be king d6. And white wants to make black prove that the sacrifice against the pawn, wherever it should occur, c6, c7, or a newly promoted queen on c8, is sufficient for the win. White would want to do this because it relies first on not only that the rook and the pawn can go away as a result of this sacrifice, but also that connected passed pawns on the f file and g file are sufficient for the win. If black doesn't know that these guys are winning, then it would be a smart idea to see if you could get something going with your c pawn rather than step away from it, where most often a human player is going to just capture on c6, and it's definitely done. Definitely done. So from white's standpoint, sticking with the pawn here is a little bit better. Some players won't make the connect here as black. So we have this position, and now as black though, I know, so I could play rook c6, but I'm actually going to drag it out. It just feels a little safer to me that way. Drag it out to the point where the king escorts the pawn. The pawn is promoted. Now for sure, rook takes c8, and white's king is moving back towards the center again. Honestly, more common as a human player would play king takes c8, but still losing, of course, to black's fleet-footed pawns. All right. So with the added finish, I'm gonna see how accurate the game was with both the game as it were against my opponent Victor Krieger. By the way, I thought it played a really awesome game. And then you take that game all the way to when Victor resigned. But then the rest played against computer. I want to see how accurate it was in that way. Right now, I'm nervous today, guys. I'm nervous. I'm at my apartment and I don't have my cards in the shop, and that makes me nervous. So yeah, see here. Wow. This game was quite accurate with the when played out to checkmate. So that's a good thing, Jordan. That's me, Jordan. I'm more Gravity, but in real life, I'm Jordan. Yeah, I played some of these moves in the endgame a bit inaccurately. I thought here, just collecting as many pawns as possible, delaying my opponent captures, and making my king active were good ways to proceed. Pushing the h pawn ahead of capturing the pawn on f4. I'm not sure. It worked out. This endgame pretty much shows that it's a win. It's not quite demonstrating the win as straightforwardly as possible. And the king goes up to guard the h2 pawn while the rook is now on, stop my opponent from promoting duty, or if my opponent promotes, capture right away at all costs. So there we go. You could do this with one queen. Some consider it better form that way. To make this checkmate with two queens is just, frankly, a little bit. It's just a different way. Actually, I don't know if it's better or worse. It's just checkmate. It's a really, really great game. Glad I played it. Okay, so that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more Gravity. Have a great night.